my channel. My name is Mouse and sometimes Andy. I talk about books and book related things, and today I will be talking about the top 10 Sapphic books in my collection, or really just the top 10 Sapphic books that I've loved the most in really the 2 years that I have been on BookTube. So I do have a stack of them here. I also have a couple of them that I do not own physically, so I will be talking about those first, and then from there we will just be grabbing off this stack. So they're not in any particular order. This is just the top 10 and the ones that I like and love and have probably reread more times than I'd like to admit. The first book is going to be They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. That is going to be a Sapphic thriller horror. In this book we follow a professor named Scarlett, and she murders the college students, the male college students or professors who assault students. And we love that for her. We support her. We support her motives. We think it's fantastic. This book also follows, I believe her name is Carly, as she is attending college for the first time and is dealing with boys for the first time. And the way that these two stories sort of entwine themselves into one another and the way it all works out in the end, just amazing. When the two storylines come together, you're shook, but then when the ending actually happens, it's just mind-blowing. I loved this book. I was genuinely surprised by how it all came together, and I have recommended it to so many people now because I just really enjoy reading it and listening to it. The audiobook is fantastic and the reader does a fantastic job. The next book that I don't physically have a copy of is going to be The Falling in Love Montage by Kiera Smith. Now, this is going to be shocking to everyone probably ever, but this is a contemporary romance young adult novel, and it is about Saoirse, it's called Saoirse, sorry, I struggle with these names, who has basically decided that she's never going to fall in love, and she meets Ruby, and they decide to have the well-known falling in love montage of events that they do in rom-coms, and basically act those things out. You know, what could possibly go wrong? I really liked this book because it was really funny. The reason that I don't like contemporaries and I don't like romances most of the time is because I find them boring and dry. So yeah, the humor in this really made up for the more heavy topics that would have made this a little bit exhausting to read, and the humor also made the romance bits not as gross for me to read, and the smut was not as weird for me to read. I really enjoyed that about the book, especially because it's a young adult book, and I know that some people think there needs to be more smut in young adult, but I don't agree as someone who's very uncomfortable with reading it. So I don't agree. I don't agree with that mentality, so I'm very glad that it wasn't, too R-rated, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. The next book is going to be whatever I pull off the top of this stack. First we have A Curse of Roses by Diana Pinguecha. She is a Portuguese author that I actually really like to follow, and she has a beautiful cat named Sushi. A Curse of Roses is about Isabel, who is able to, basically all food that she eats turns into flowers, and she has been punishing herself with different forms of religious self-harm. And this is her dealing with her being a witch or having magic, basically, and then she finds a way to break her curse, and it is in the form of Fatian, and Fatian is a beautiful, wonderful queer lady, and they go from there and have these fantastic relationships, and I thought the story was really beautiful. Now, if you're someone like me who has religious trauma and really likes to read about books surrounding religious trauma, I really recommend this book. Diana really does a good job of touching on that as a subject to explore, as well as the way that queerness fits into all of that, as well as witchcraft. Something that I really enjoyed in this book, though, was that Isabel is betrothed to a man, and he at no point forces her to have any kind of uncomfortable relations with him, and is actually incredibly respectful towards her. And I really appreciated that because it's something that you don't see a lot of, especially in young adult books, and I find that mentality really dangerous because we already live in that kind of world, and sometimes fiction needs to be healthy escapism, and Isabel goes through enough already. She didn't need to have someone that she was betrothed to be a terrible person. And so I really appreciated that he was not that. That was something that shocked me almost, because you see it so rarely anymore. The next book is going to be a graphic novel. It is Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. In this book, basically, our main character keeps getting broken up with by Laura Dean. And she finds herself, Freddie finds herself losing friendships almost and in inconvenient positions because of this, because Laura Dean does not seem to care about Freddie's emotions and feelings. And this book really addresses, like, your friends who will be there for you, but how you also don't need to pick a partner over your friends. Like, there needs to be a healthy balance. It also really touches on setting comfortable boundaries with your partner, and I really liked that. The other thing that I really like about this book is that the aesthetic is nice. As somebody who really loves pink, I really love this book cover. This book in general. I love the art in it, and I just think that the pastel pink in it is fantastic, and it's a really solid one. I like the hardback also. I know that that's not what this is about, but I like that it's a hardback. I really like a graphic novel in hardback. The next one is going to be Socco Girls by Claire Legrand. Now, that was my dog. This is another Sapphic horror. It's much more paranormal than They Never Learn. Look, we follow three girls, Marion, Zoe, and Val, as several girls continue to go missing all of a sudden. I really liked this book because, one, it was one of the first books that I ever saw with ace representation, and I thought that was fantastic. And two, it was one of the first books that I ever read that had Sapphic smut in it. It was also one of the first Sapphic books I'd ever read, so I really enjoyed this book. The way that it touches on concepts around the way women are treated, girls are treated in general, with men as predators. There's a lot of this underlying message and undertones of more social commentary than I think most people recognize, and I really appreciated that. I liked the way that it was addressed. However, the body horror in this book, amazing. I love good body horror. It's something that is very important to me, and you get descriptors of body parts all over the forest, and I loved that. So yes, I have issues. Thank you. Bye. Our next book is going to be Beyond the Ruby Veil by Mara Fitzgerald. Now, Art got me this book specifically so I would read it. Obviously, she's not very long, so this is going to be one for you guys who don't want to, like, sit down and read a really long book. We have an angry lesbian who basically said, you know why I'm not going to die? Because I don't want to. Thanks, bye. And she just likes to ruin everyone else's life. Like, it doesn't bother her to do that. She's going to be the very best in all existence. There's a lot of blood magic in this book. It is very fantasy-based. Basically, she is going to go marry her betrothed, who's not interested in women, and she's been hiding this, like, death mark this whole time, and the witch who takes people is like, and takes her. She's the witch who turns blood into water, basically. You know, our main girl, Emanuela, she says, you know what, I'm not interested in this, and then kills the witch. But then her town's not gonna have water anymore, so that's an issue. So then basically her and her partner, who is supposed to be her betrothed, go underground and discover that there's other worlds with other blood witches. What is it that they actually call them? Because they don't call them blood witches. Water Kriya. She also is out to ruin that other girl's life that she meets in the other town, basically. And I love that for her. I'm very excited for the next book to come out. I'm hoping that there's a next book based on the way that this ended. Please let there be a next book. This was a really good and pretty fast read. I enjoyed it a lot. Obviously, or it wouldn't be in my top 10 Sapphic books. Who am I kidding? The next one, you guys have probably heard me talk about this one, is going to be Witches of Ash and Ruin by E. Latimer. I talked about this book in my top spooky books in October of last year. I'm so sorry if you can hear my dog eating in the background. She's so inconsiderate. She had all day to eat and then decided right now while I'm filming is the time. I'm so sorry, but I'm on a roll, so we're going to keep talking about this. Basically, Dana's training to become, like, full-fledged witch and dedicate herself to her goddess, and there is a serial killer out there who is killing witches! That's terrifying. So, on top of that going on, her ex-boyfriend outed her as bi. He just kicked her out of the closet, and her dad is a preacher and he's not into that. What I really liked about this book is, other than the absolute fantastic queerness in it, was the murder mystery aspect was great, but also it uses Celtic magic and Celtic witchcraft, which is something that's very important and near and dear to my heart. So you don't hear a lot about it and its practices, and so I really liked that that was the focus in this book, and that was the focus on the kind of magic. Additionally, it's just a really cool looking book, and I loved it. I read it at the beginning of quarantine last year, still working from home. And it was an absolutely fantastic read, and I'm glad I got my hands on it. The next book is a set of books. It's a series of books. She's heavy. She's here and she's queer. That's going to be Cute Mutants by S.J. Whitby. I'm just gonna... Are you guys tired of me talking about these books yet? This is the fourth one. I'm going to hold this one up because my name is in the acknowledgements in the back, and so I'm just going to be like, hi. First, I'm going to talk about these as quality paperbacks. They have that soft matte, and they make this sound. So that's nice. Anyway, this book series by S.J. Whitby is about our main person, Dylan Taylor, and Dylan Taylor wakes up one morning and they have the ability to speak to inanimate objects. It turns out that anyone who kissed Emma at this one party also has mutant powers. I wanted to say magical powers, but it's not magical. Also has mutant powers, and the government's not into that. Religious groups aren't into that. Yeah, people aren't big into it. I did get to read this one as a beta copy, and the book after it as a beta copy, and the book after that as a beta copy, and they're all fantastic. The way that this world develops itself is really, really good. If you want to commit yourself to a long series and like dive in for the long haul, and the books just get better and better with each book, then I would absolutely recommend the Cute Mutant series by S.J. Whitby. These books touch on a lot of different subjects. So we address homophobia, we address some ableism, we address some racism, we address religious trauma in its finest form, and just like the government sucking, they address capitalism. But something that I really like about one of these books is that it also addresses the fact that they can't fix everything with a snap of their fingers. That happens so often in young adult books where they just fix everything. And something that I appreciate that SJ did was they straight up wrote, like, no, we need to give funds to the people who can fix the things. Like, we can't just fix all the things all at once because it could cause a breakdown in the entire system. Even if you think it's like what would be best for them, it may not actually be what's best for them because you are not them and you do not live in their lives. So that's something that I really appreciated about this book series, as well as the way that it addressed religious trauma. It was very near and dear to my heart. It also touches on some sexualities like asexuality and gray zone asexuality, as well as some gender identity like gender fluidity and non-binary and that kind of thing. And some of the ways that these things are talked about really made me feel seen. And I've said this in almost every single review that I've ever talked about Cute Mutants in, but these are the books that I desperately wish I had had as a child, and even as an adult reading them, they taught me things about myself that I didn't even realize. So they're very cool books. The world is fantastic. The plot, the world building, all of it is really, really fantastic, but it also makes you feel seen at the end of the day. And that's kind of cool. The very last book that I'm going to be talking about is going to be Scapegracers by Hannah Abigail Clark. Y'all have probably heard me talk about this a million times because I've read it like 3 or 4 times last year. It was one of my all-time favorite books last year and continues to be one of my top 10 Sapphic reads of all time. This book follows a group of teenagers who are feral and weird, and they become best friends with Sideways Pike, who is like the known lesbian in the school and definitely the known weirdo, and she's a witch. And they meet this creature who lives in books named Mr. Scratch, and it's just like super cool and super weird, and I loved everything about it. I really appreciated the prose itself because I felt like it was written really beautifully, and that's coming from somebody who can't see pictures in their head. But I also really liked the way that Clark manages to write teenage girls in this like feral way that so many people fail to do. They so often want to write teenage girls as like flowery, sweet things, and they're just not. They're not. Have you ever met a teenage girl? They're not that. And Clark does a absolutely fantastic job of not doing that. Of making them seem absolutely feral and making their actions just make you feel absolutely feral. And I adored that. I don't know how many times I'm going to say absolutely. I loved everything about this book. The sequel comes out soon. I'm very excited for it. I'm hoping to get my hands on it like ASAP. And Clark's writing is just absolutely fantastic. So you should read this if you haven't yet. It's very pretty, if that's what you need. The audiobook is also on Audible and it's not very long, so I have listened to it and enjoyed it. So yeah, that's it. That's my top 10 Sapphic books. Here's my dog, who could be Sapphic. I don't know, probably not though. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like, and subscribe and share and all of that. Comment down below if you've read some of these books or if you're excited to read some of these books. If you didn't like this video, I'm sorry. Let me know how I can improve on it and make it better for you. Don't forget to take care of yourselves, drink some water, take your meds, that kind of thing. I will see you guys on Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and again on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks. Bye!